Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's me, the South African Wonder, and today I'm at my local car wash. I came through to get the car washed so that it's ready for the next trip out to the Pilansberg. Um, had two trips last week that went out, and then I've got two more trips this week. So nice to keep the car clean in between. Um, so while I'm waiting for them to finish up the vacuum and the drying, I just wanted to quickly jump on and maybe discuss a quick topic that I think piqued my interest last week. I was on the Facebook website for one of the sandpark sites, and um, I did a quick poll almost to ask if people tipped the rangers that took them out for game drives, whether it be a morning, afternoon, or evening drive. And the responses I got were actually quite polarized, if I can call it that. There were two schools of thought. So the first one was, the rangers who are doing these uh, guided tours in the national parks are actually getting paid to do so. And whether it's a rotational system or whatever scheduling system they use, they're getting paid to take out guests on these drives. So they shouldn't be tipped, as it is part of their job and their daily routine. And then there was another school of thought that said, you know what, if they are doing a good job, then you should be tipping them to show your gratitude. um, I think why it was so surprising for me is that almost if you going out for game drives on a uh, tour with a private lodge, there's often a stipulated tip on many of their websites. So I've seen guidelines that say you should be tipping um, your field guide at these private lodges, up to $100 a day, and sometimes even more, um, which then translates to 1,500 rand, which is quite significant. If you are staying, let's say, 4 nights, and you need to then tip like uh, 6,000 rand at the end of your trip to the guide. And then there's stipulations on tips for the cleaning staff and the kitchen staff and things like that as well. So where you go in um, with a budget of X amount, if you add in the tips, it then pushes that amount quite high. And one of the reasons for this is that looking at entry level jobs for these field guides, a lot of them aren't paid that well. So typical salaries are between 5,000 rand a month and 8,000 rand a month, and this includes um, food on the premises and lodging on the premises, and then a cycle of sometimes 4 weeks on and then 2 weeks off. um, and a lot of these guides actually rely on these tips to make almost a living wage, to supplement their salary, so that it's worth their time and effort to be out there. I'm not too sure how it works for the Kruger Park and the Sand Parks Rangers, let me say, and how their salaries work, because I am not too sure what their scales are like. But it could be that they are earning a smaller amount, and the tips do help almost boost this monthly salary. I'm not too sure why people staying at private lodges are more willing almost to pay these tips, uh, and the general public visiting national parks are maybe less willing to to pay these tips. It could be a budget thing. I mean, the accommodation, for instance, at Kruger is going to cost you much less than your per person per night rate at a um, private lodge. So your customer base is a little bit different. So you could almost say that the richer customers can afford a little bit more of a tip. But then the counter argument to that is, you know, these private lodges are charging you quite a bit already. So why not, increase the monthly salary of the guides that they employ and ensure that you don't have to tip as much. You're almost not forced to tip. And this goes back to the argument that is made with other service industries such as waiters and people who day to day rely on tips to get by, and why aren't they paid a livable wage almost. I think for me personally, I always advocate for tipping in national parks. Whenever I go out on a guided tour with the rangers, I do try to make it a point to tip. But it's also based on the service that you get. The argument that these rangers are paid to do the job sometimes falls away when they go above and beyond just what they paid for. I've been on drives where you can see that the ranger is just going through the motions, um, and earning his salary, so to say, and driven past sightings and hyena dens and things like that, when you should be stopping and showing some enthusiasm, because you never know, for instance, if someone has seen hyenas and hyena pups in particular in their time already. So you may have seen it for 30 days in a row leaving a rest camp, but the tourists coming in maybe coming in for the first time, and it may be their first trip, and uh, you know actually first time even seeing hyenas. So that enthusiasm needs to be there. So I do advocate for tips to the rangers, but obviously when it is due, and when they've gone above and beyond. And there are some rangers who actually show that enthusiasm, and it's most of the time, but some of them don't. So that discretion comes into it. I think how much you tip is a whole another can of worms, and maybe I can get into that at another time. But if we are, for instance, going on a night drive, and there's two of us, myself and Prasheen, generally, sometimes it's just me. I do tend to, tip about 100 rand or so for the night drive. The night drive costs, 270 per person, so about 540. So 100 rands about 20% of the cost of that night drive. Morning drives and things get a little bit more expensive, but the tips can then vary on your sightings and what you've learned almost from the guide you with. And that's my sort of affordability range. You don't necessarily have to follow that, and sometimes even the smallest amount makes a difference, because it shows that you are grateful, and it is an act of gratitude. So sometimes the amount is not necessary, it's the act of actually tipping that then is almost more rewarding to the ranger. Um, I think I was surprised last week on one of my trips when I got a tip, because it wasn't something I was expecting, and I have priced in all my costs and margin in on my trips already. So, it's not something that I expect my customers to do. But when they did do it, I was, very grateful, and I was a bit surprised actually as well. And that, I think, made my day almost. It shows that they enjoyed the drive and enjoyed me sharing my knowledge. So yeah, that's my take on possibly a quite controversial topic. Apologies again for the vacuum noise. I think they're just vacuuming my car at the moment. So yeah, we're getting ready for the next trip now, and we'll catch you on the next one.